So Stan, tell us just briefly about your background.
Up the hill here at the Air Force Academy, I was a cadet there for about 2 years. I trained at IBM for programming systems operations. And for a short period of time, I worked undercover for the FBI in Dallas to ferret out some illegal communication between a foreign head of state and people in the company I was working for. So FBI, Air Force, that's the background there. And then computing. While I was at that computing job, I was approached by one of the vice presidents of one of the companies that this huge conglomerate owned. There's about 100 companies that they put together in one package. And this vice president came down and met me in the coffee room, the canteen for the company. It would handle about 1,500 of our 3,000 employees at a sitting. But no one was there except him and me. I was down there to get a cup of coffee. He walks over, sits down, and he has this thick European accent. And he says, tell me, what you do for fun at home. I don't even know the guy. So anyway, the conversation eventually led around to the fact that I was working on an alternate energy source from the sun through the atmosphere, and a way to propel craft, like anti-gravity. At that first meeting, he said, look, you ought to talk to a friend of mine, Dr. Maxwell, up the street here. He's interested in that kind of stuff. I had no interest in talking to anybody about all this, so I thought, well, fine, thank you, bye. About a month later, I was down there in the same seat, and he wanders in again and sits right down in front of me and says, you haven't contacted my friend, Dr. Maxwell. I said, oh, no, look, I've been busy. And he says, you have an appointment at 3 o'clock this afternoon at this address, be there. Okay, so I went. And I met Dr. Maxwell in his research facility there. And he took me into his office, which wasn't big, and started to kind of chat with me. He says, see these pictures on the wall here? Dr. Edward Teller, myself, and Edward Teller, and me under the polar cap in a submarine. I said, yeah, you run a pretty big crowd there, yeah. He said, tell us what you're doing there at home in your lab. So I'm talking to a guy that's probably got a gazillion PhDs and whatever, and, way up the food chain from me. And I thought, well, I don't want to sound like an idiot. So I said, well, I've been looking at some magnetic and electrostatic phenomena and some things. And he said, don't fence with me. We know you're working on anti-gravity. We are too, and we've solved it. So we want you to come work with us in Australia.
So you get taken to Australia. You had previously been working with anti-gravity craft. And your job, Air Force, FBI, you said you were undercover with the FBI. Mm-hmm. You've been working your way up. Now you're in Australia. What is this project all about?
Well, the project was under the direction of portions of the Department of Defense, Australian Department of Defense. My control agent in charge of handling me was Captain Sir John Williams, and the head of the Aeronautical Research Lab was Tom Keeble at that time. And my first meeting, they actually had me write a paper on what I'd been doing and the work on the craft, which I did, and presented to Sir John to take with him when he went up to Jakarta, another business trip. But they informed me at the Aeronautical Research Lab in a private meeting with Tom Keeble, the head of the department, and 4 other scientists that work in the department. They informed me that they were researching things like flying saucers and reports like that. And before they got to the meat of it all, they said, does anyone know you're here? Did ASIO, Australian Security Intelligence, did they contact you? I said, no, I haven't heard from them yet. He said, oh, good. I said, look, have you guys got films of these UFO craft you're talking about and what they do? And yeah, there are some. And I said, well, could I see them now I'm in the project? He says, well, no, not really. Those are kind of classified. He looks over at the bookcase, and the scientists over here that weren't on, there was no camera there, but they weren't between him and I, and they said, the bookcase is wired. So I immediately picked that up and said, oh, yeah, well, that'll be interesting. Yeah, tell me about some of the things you can talk about. And we did, and they then took the guy that was looking at my papers first with them, Dr. David Warren. He's the guy who invented the black box for aircraft. He lived right across the street from me, believe it or not, there. But anyway, they took him off my case, forbade him to look at it. He had the highest security clearances in the lot, and I was now put under above top secret clearance there. My job was to prepare the notes and suggestions I had for the craft. And while I was in the process of doing this, we're talking about several months in the progress, Sir John took me to lunch with him and Sir Henry at the Australian Club in Melbourne. And it was for the high-ranking, the prime ministers, the government officials, they eat all the cotton tops of power. And over the lunch table, there was Sir Henry and Sir John and another guy named John, a professor at Tasmania University. And we had normal conversation level, and then about midway through the lunch, Sir John turns to Sir Henry and he says, "Henry, they're moving in on us." So I waited for the conversation to fill in the blanks, and nothing. I said, Sir John, was that the European Economic Community you're talking about moving in on? Oh, no. Henry, you going up to the property this weekend? And the conversation fell flat. Obviously, I should have known something I didn't at the time. But later, I found out that the they're talking about was from beings that they were working with that aren't from Earth. And they had a joint project for humans and multinational groups. Were supplying underground facilities, sometimes under ocean facilities, with infrastructure to allow these visitors to build equipment they want. And in return, we were getting certain technologies like refined anti-gravity and time dilation devices and systems and molecular physics where you can walk through walls without breaking yourself or the wall. And there were just a lot of things that we got in return, but they were kind of low-level toys. And once our visitors that we were working with made what they needed to keep their operation going without our help, they summarily started kicking us out of these bases. And it got to shooting battles in a couple of places, as far as I understand. My security guys told me that I wasn't there. In the mid to late 70s, we lost control of all of our joint facilities with them. Now, they turned me loose and another guy like me over in London and said, "Pack up your gear, disappear, hide." And we were the keepers of what secrets we knew to share should they all go down, and no one would ever know what happened. There may have been others, but those, myself and that guy in England, London was the one I knew about.
You're working in these groups that are working with them, with these entities. Now, what were the types of entities?
The kind of gray-colored small ones with big eyes, the taller gray ones with big eyes as well. And something that looked like humans, like a fair-haired Nordic type description. They were basically tall, slender, and and their skin, if you looked at it sideways in the sunlight, it was like looking at an oil slick. It was kind of like little rainbows, and they said that was from the small scales, different than our skin cells. The gray ones were biological robots. They had no soul or things like that. They just did what they were instructed to do. Those are the ones that I know about. I know that the Canadian former Minister of Defense, who is now retired, did say that they were informed of, nearly 13 types of beings. And in the biblical stories, they talk about Satan being in charge of a rebellion, being cast down to earth. Well, I think it's that he was in this parallel universe at a higher energy level. He was cast down with some of these cohorts, and they made these beings to build a lie, a deception for the people of Earth. And that deception was that, okay, little grays, Nordics, all these kind here are invading us and abducting us. Then Satan is going to come in with his crew that look just like us, are friendly, and will deliver us from these nasty little aliens. That way, the satanic ones, who appear to be good and friendly, can help us set up a world government. And then he can take over the planet with his man who's going to be the human Antichrist, which the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, in the Greek, will land with his troops and have battle with Satan and his minions, who have executed this great deception to the people of Earth, and will defeat them. And this is the biblical narrative on that, but certainly what I witnessed and what I was told by my security team do fit that perfectly. So my advice to people who see good guys coming from the skies, like in the movie or the series V, where they come and help mankind and give them all kinds of gifts in return for seawater and junk, that kind of a scenario will be played out. So the first landing, the first official disclosure will not be of the friendlies, the good guys. They'll be deceptive, just like in that movie V, and they will defeat and remove all the bad guys, the grays and whatever, that were abducting people. And the people of Earth will be very happy. And not only will they defeat those, they will take out of power the people that are called the Illuminati or the Deep State. they're going to chew them up and spit them out. And sad for them, but this is part of the deception where they will convince even the right wing, people like myself, if we're not aware, that they have come in and cleaned house and got rid of all the evildoers, and they're the good guys. It will be a clean sweep of the house, and for those who aren't schooled in what's going on in this deception, they will fall prey to supporting a new global world order.
This is basically the next generation of terrorism.
Yeah.
That's going to be sold, the boogeyman, these lower entities, these grays, and then the higher entities, the ones that are masquerading around as you called, like the taller ones, the Nordics, they're going to be the saviors. They're going to be the ones posing as the good guys. Am I understanding you correctly?
Either them or ones like them. The whole scenario for UFO things at the moment treats all of them as bad guys. I don't know that I've ever heard of any of the Nordics doing bad things. They all seem to be friendly. So it may be them that comes in and gets rid of the rest of them. But the deception will be complete. I mean, people will see peace, love, and harmony, peace and security come with these people because they can stop wars. They can disable all the nuclear devices. They won't even leave the hangar. And they'll have medicine and anti-gravity and things like that. And they'll say to the people, look, we ran through this stage centuries ago, but we solved it all. We're now to live in peace with one another, and we're going to share that with you. And all you got to do is say you want our help, and we'll come do it. And that's how it will start. So watch for full disclosure to come, and everybody thinking, wow, finally the truth is out there. But it's not. It's still part of the deception. If we're still here, those of us that are aware of it, we're going to have to run underground. We can't use credit cards or money or whatever because they're going to demand that people of Earth use a global currency situation, which is digital. And you have to swear allegiance to the New World Order, to the leader of it, which in our case is the Antichrist. And we know from the biblical passages that if you do that, you sacrifice your soul, you're gone. You've signed with the devil.
There's no coming back from that.
No, you're done. That's one of the sins that you can't get forgiven for. So it is my objective, and many like me that are Christians, to be like a watchman on the wall and say to the people that are believers now and some that will be soon, don't fall for this. And that's what several of us have been saying for a long time in various media events and whatever, to try to warn people ahead of time.
You had mentioned to me previously that you had some type of a brushing of shoulders with some type of a United Nations event.
Right. There was a man and a woman, a couple there that were taller than normal. They looked like Nordics, quite honestly, but I didn't see them in the sunlight. And they had me in a room asking me some questions, and they were odd questions about world economy and various other things. But I had a creepy feeling, that's just a feeling, that I felt like I was a canary in a cage and they were the cat. I do think that they probably were part of the team that's not from around here. So I think they were the ones that were cast out, the fallen ones. The Bible calls them the fallen ones, the fallen angels. They rebelled against the creator of all that we see here. They are working directly with Satan. They were certainly well placed in the United Nations for what they were doing, to control minds, to influence people there into what's coming. All I can tell you is that I felt an odd attitude from them in the room. And it really felt like I was the prey in the room.
Right.
A lot of the information I do have on them and the underground facilities did come from the security details. I've been let privy to things that these people would be killed for if I named them. So I've been careful not to name them or the place or circumstance in which the information was passed.
One of the things that keeps coming up in our research is the treaty between President Eisenhower and a group of entities.
That was the Holloman Air Force Base meeting. Now, I wasn't there, and at that time I was probably only about 7 or 8 years old, but in the ensuing years when I worked inside the program, I was aware that we had made a deal, and I assumed it was the Eisenhower deal, that we would give them infrastructure, hiding places, labs, out of the human sight, and that we would help them rebuild their technology and stuff here that they couldn't bring with them when they came through the, I guess you could call it like a Stargate, a parallel universe port. And there's a lot of support for that, including Nimrod's Tower. These aliens, I guess we're going to have to call it that, did apparently come through a portal or a gate. And if you look at the biblical account of Ezekiel watching a flaming chariot come down and land in front of him, it was on fire when it was in the atmosphere and came down, and it was cooler when it was in front of him. When you port through any kind of a gate from a parallel universe, and this is theory or hypothesis based on physics, it's going to have a higher energy density than our molecules. They're spinning faster, they're more dense. So to throw off that energy, they need to throw off, this glowing, flaming type envelope around them to get their molecules to adjust to our speed before they can even touch you, or they would hurt you. So these things all add up to a parallel universe, and our universe is kind of like a virtual reality.
This is one of those topics that we need people who know these things. We need people who have actually put in wrench time, who've actually served, who've actually been boots on the ground. And so bringing you into this has been a major blessing to us. So I just want to say thank you very much for working with us.
Thank you for sharing information too. Appreciate it.